everybody. Welcome back. This is Foundation Feed series number 9. I am the volunteer board president of the Michael J. Rinder Aftermath Foundation, Claire Headley, joined by my amazing co-host, Phil Jones. Welcome,
Thank
Phil.
you, Claire. Nice to be here again.
Yes, absolutely. And we will be doing part 2 of our interview with Ian Rafalko today. We will link to part 1 in the video description. If you haven't seen that, we'd recommend you watching that first. But we will take a few minutes, let everyone get settled. I have to tell you, Phil. So here, I'm going to pull up this comment here from Clara. Yay, everyone's bumped in. We were just doing, I'll explain it. We were just doing a live on Blown for Good Scientology Exposed. Yep. And I said, I'm going to have to bump out in 5 minutes, which started a whole hilarious conversation of bumping in and bumping out. So thanks to everybody who's playing along with that hilarity here. So, all righty. Let's see here. Let's get Ian in here. Welcome, Ian.
Hey, Ian, guys. Hi. How's it going?
Good, good. Thanks for agreeing to do this with us. The last conversation was amazing. Your insights are really, really helpful. And I know Phil and I are both just very much looking forward to part 2 of our conversation.
Me too. Yeah, I heard a lot of people liked it, and I'm just happy that I said something that resonated with people who are in my situation. So yeah, anything I can do, I usually make available when it comes to the aftermath. So so here I am.
Yes, absolutely. And we won't do a massive overview, but we'll just link to part 1. So again, catch up. But Ian, I think you've done some amazing work speaking out about your Scientology experiences and so forth since getting out. So again, I'm just grateful for your voice in all this. We've said before, and we'll always say it again, speaking out is not a requisite for the help the Michael J. Rinder Aftermath Foundation provides to people. Very often those people need to focus on themselves and their lives, and recovery as a more important sub-step to a better place. I think you'd agree with that, right, Ian?
100%. I mean, one of the hardest parts about being like a public facing advocate is, you're putting things out there and then things come back, and the receipt of, you never really know what to expect. And especially when you just get out, it's like you have this framework of what you've sort of come to believe people are like and things are like out there. And so there's a lot of like unpredictable stuff. People get very nervous. I've talked to people who are like, I wanted to leave, but I'm not ready to speak out. I'm like, those things are mutually, those things can be mutually exclusive. Like you can
100%. Yeah.
And you'll come out saying things that you don't really, like, if you do it too fast, maybe you didn't think about something. You'll, like, the longer you're out, you'll come to understand your situation more clearly anyway.
Yeah, it's true. It settles a bit. I had the same similar thing. And for you, what was it that it kind of inspired you to go public and speak out? It's not so easy for everybody, but you jumped right into the fray, kind of thing.
In a word, fury. In a word, anger, frustration. I think for me, I had just been so experienced at seeing like what level of, I guess, suffering I could tolerate at the time. Like, I decided that I wasn't going to be, I wasn't going to go in session anymore. I wasn't going to go back to the org. I wasn't going to, I made these quiet things to myself, and I didn't tell anybody that I was, studying or looking at these interviews. I mean, I told my brother, and then he was like, well, if you keep looking up interviews about ex-Scientologist stuff, you're never going to watch your niece grow up. And I was like, Well, okay. And so I stopped talking to most people about it. But I think honestly, at the end of the day, everyone who wanted me to stay, I don't know, it was almost in a way of like they wanted to make Scientology seem like the most important thing. So there was a lot of belittling of my personal needs and pressure in these weird places. Everyone wanted to have this like conversation, you know, if they're worried you're going to leave, they really want to handle you. Yeah. So I would be taken on these long walks that kind of went nowhere, you know, where I was getting told all these things, all these resources that Flag has or Scientology has, which is just another thing L. Ron Hubbard said on a page. Like like there's some policy that's going to magically, you know, fix you. Well, that would have been convenient a year prior, but you know, it's a lot of collective frustration that sort of, for me, I was like, I don't want to be like a villain. I just want my story to be known. I just want what I've seen that I think is objectively wrong to not like die with me. And because that serves no one. I mean, I think more information is important no matter where it's coming from. And, you know, when you're inside, you don't really see the bigger picture.
Sure.
You don't really see like how many people are actually talking or like the context of these communities. So for me, I just said, I'm going to say it, and I'm going to say it how I want to, how I feel it at the time. And at the time I just blew up, and and then it got a lot of attention, and I wasn't expecting that. And it really showed me, I think, how, you know, you can use your own pain as like, and we talked about this before, like you use your vulnerability as your strength. Like the more people, like Scientology comes out with these things you think were confidential. They read your folder. They use things that you've said in confidence against you a lot, especially the more popular, more outward you become. So for me, I just decided to get ahead of it. I just decided to say, this is who I am. I'm an open book. Ask me any question. And I really had nothing else to do at the time because, you know, my family was gone, just divorced, friends dropping like flies to block me. So for me, in hindsight, it was a battle. Yeah. And I think it's become less of a how do I describe this? It's become less of like a daily battle and more of like a long-term battle. And I think that's for me become the most important thing, you know, like, yeah, because the stronger you are, the more in touch you are with your emotions, your feelings, the more you can recognize what happened specifically that caused you to leave, the easier it is to see those things in real time. So for me, I kind of blew up and then calmed down. So
was one of you had mentioned that you had an actual threat of loss of family for your niece, and I understand that. That's what happened with us when my sister had said, if you don't go to Flag and get handled, you're going to lose your family, your kids.
Right.
So, and that brought a lot of anger for us too. And I understand where you're coming from in that, but you know, to get that direct threat that, you know, of losing your niece, that's pretty heavy stuff.
It was supposed to be this, again, it was another long walk. And for some reason it was in this, to this weird abandoned like playground. It was like we went on this walk, like he knew where we were going, but we didn't even know where, like I had never been here before. And so, and we're talking about it, and he's just basically prepping me saying, well, I know you're upset, but there's nothing really we can do about it. You know, I had just been on this 5-month, you know, cycle where I was getting interrogated every day and then face to head, and I was feeling very low. So they were like, well, here are your options. You can either not tell anyone and or you can lose like all of your family, and we're upfront. We know, like, he told me, and I was like, I responded so casually. He said, you're not going to see your niece grow up. And I was like, I know.
And this is your brother speaking.
My brother, yes. My brother, who is he's the DUR INR of DC, the Director of Inspections and Reports. So he's basically in the DC org. He's like the ethics,
the police officer, the Scientology police officer. Yeah,
exactly.
So he had like no reservations making this kind of threat, and I feel like to him it was almost like this plea, but it felt like a very pathetic. For me at the time, I was just kind of like, good, another threat, like another reason to shut myself off from this situation. But
and to me, to me that really speaks to one of the most bullying tactics of Scientology is that you're working through your own situation and just wanting to process and thinking about going a different direction, and you're literally being bullied by your own family members with threats to keep you in, which just of course, I'm sure you've seen it many times. Phil and I have both seen it many times. Those threats are intended 100% to keep you in that trap.
I've seen it. I've had to tell people. I mean, when I was on staff in Atlanta, I had to have some of those conversations. Like, there were people who were on staff just because they could sign the contract, but like it was difficult for them to actually arrive every day and do these jobs for like one reason or another. Sometimes it was a disability. Sometimes it was, there were like material reasons why they couldn't show up, whether it was financial or physical. And I never like threatened anyone because that's just not the kind of approach that I felt was workable. But I've had to be pretty stern about like telling people, it's like, this is what they're going to see this as. And, describing to people that like something I kind of already was very comfortable with. I mean, it's a very bizarre culture because you have all these people around you, but you don't really have anyone you're comfortable getting close to you.
Right.
Yeah. It's like I use this analogy all the time. It's like the North Korean border patrol, how you have two guards facing each other, ready to kill the other one, lest one of them decides to leave. Like, that's the reason that they're there watching each other. It's like this insane post where, the paranoia and your distrust of others is part of it. And there's no certainty in Scientology because things can switch. The person who was once on policy, getting upstat, all of these things, OT, the next day can just be the
bottom of the pile.
The SP that never trust them again and discard everything you've ever heard them say. And it's just this like, all right, I guess we'll just trust this other guy. Hope he's not an SP.
Right. And isn't it true that 9 times out of 10, the only thing that they did to cause such an extreme label was to either question or escape? One of those two scenarios.
Or joke. I mean, even to joke. Like,
yes.
Yeah. And you always have to be guarded. Everything you say, because right in the back of your mind is going to be someone's going to write me up and report me for saying something or whatever. I mean, it's just like you were saying, you just can't get that close to people in there because they could turn on you just that easily. I mean, the fact that the fact that your brother can threaten you for losing your family, and my sister could threaten us for losing our family. That's how deep the programming goes. It's really insidious.
It's the dishonesty I find, really kills the conversation, because I'm sure in some world, in some mental framework, my family has, feels very justified for blocking me. But on everything, and every time I text, blocked. But from the outside, it's really just like trying to encourage like a caged animal to eat a little couple pellets. You're like, okay, it's like, it looks like the altitude. How do I put this? The structure, the hierarchical organized structure that when you're in feels very solid and very, respectable. And there are these people and these titles. Once you leave, that whole thing kind of just like falls away. And these become like nervous people in a maze, looking for the cheese, kind of just like, is this cheese? And they're like, no, you're punished. And he's like, oh man, is this the cheese? It's like, looks like cheese, but no, you're punished.
That's a good analogy, actually. No, you're right.
They're so scared all the time of everything. And they think that it's me that's scaring them. But I'm not gonna punish them if they text me back. I'm not gonna write to RTC saying, you got yourself a bad egg here.
Exactly. I know exactly. For alleging to believe that communication is the quote unquote universal solvent, they sure don't like to communicate, and certainly try to put in these, leverages and controls intending to stop you from communicating, right?
Oh, they're so afraid. Yeah. When we first got out, and I was downtown Clearwater, and I ran into somebody I knew, and this was just when we were finding out how everybody had disconnected from us. A guy, I went to say hi to him. He ran behind a tree. That's how fearful. Actually ran behind a tree.
Well, you could have looked at him and given him some, PTS magic.
Oh, I'm sure.
Space. His BTs are probably shaking.
Space cooties.
Yeah.
He didn't want to catch the space cooties.
Oh, I know. But I always say they're more afraid of what Scientology will do to them if they're caught talking to a suppressive person than they are of the suppressive person. They 100%. Might not think that consciously, but that's really how
I've seen that many times. One time I was trying to talk to my sister because she lived 20 minutes from us, and I had just had my second son, and we went to go talk to her, and Mark rolled down the window and said, "Hey, Kirsten, you want to meet your nephews?" And she literally turned and ran as fast as she could back to the house. That's fear. That's fear of Scientology's consequences. We weren't saying anything. We were just like, "Hey, would you like to meet your nephews?" So you're right. It's absolutely it speaks to the craziness of it.
And the concept also, because you said that, and I was like, one of the things I think about when I'm like watching this happen is the concept of 1-1, and how in Scientology 1-1 is this emotional tone meant to identify covert hostility, in the sense of like basically liars who will tell you something but then be ready to stab you in the back the moment you get close.
Right.
And I think when I was growing up, that concept was pushed on me to such a degree. Like my mom, like just for, I guess what they would call backflash. Like from my perspective, a response to my mother's screaming was always, on any level, in any capacity, was considered, this covert attempt. Because after a while, I kind of got desensitized to her screaming. So instead of like yelling back, I would just say, okay. Like, she'd come in the room and scream and start like, knock things over and tell me what a waste of life I am or whatever. And then I'd just be like, great, you done? And then she'd be like, oh, you won. Degenerate DB, all the things she could say.
Degraded being. Oh my gosh, yeah.
And it was, so it's this like, and in my head, I'm like, it's just like padding for that very phenomenon of fear. It's like, well, I'm allowed to feel like they're evil if in my head they're actually some seditious super spy, high high manipulation. Like my sister, the last time I talked to my sister was through an email, and I was trying to convey to her, I'm like, there are things that they aren't telling you about.
Yeah.
We were lied to, trying to in any way plead to her sense of rationale. And she basically, she responded with this, because I also sent her an audio clip of the Xenu story directly from L. Ron Hubbard. And she was like, don't you think I know what L. Ron Hubbard sounds like? This isn't him. Anyway, you're a toxic, because they can just say, oh, it's AI now.
Oh, no.
But like, it was like this. She's like, you're so toxic. And I was like, so curious, because we were like really close before I left. And I was like, what? Like, of all the things, like, because they don't really believe in, like, all the therapy speak that kind of comes out of nowhere, especially when you're on the other side. They want to make it like sound reasonable, but like the only thing I'm toxic to is like the coercive control aspects of Scientology.
Right.
Like, if I'm encouraging you to think outside of one approved source of information and you call me toxic, I hate to be that guy, but that one's on you. That one's a little deeper. You know, it's like if me showing you a magazine article or like a news article, or like, I feel like they have it in their heads that like I'm making these things. Like I came out and I was like, here's this study that I made up. It's like, no, there are other human beings in the world, and they are all having different experiences. And a lot of them are having, in Scientology, the same experience, and it's mostly negative.
Yeah.
But they don't want to talk about that because you know, they'll run. They'll just...
it totally reminds me of the movie Don't Look Up. So many ways.
Right.
So many ways. It's like, no, don't look. You know, the just deny. Can't. And it's so contradictory to what they allegedly believe. Like, you know, if you compare it to the Hubbard's quote multiple viewpoint system unquote, like you should be able to according to that, it should be perfectly fine to, you know, read all the different books and make up your own mind. But we all know that's not how it works.
And Hubbard just always would say, look, don't listen, but all Scientologists listen and don't look.
Right.
Totally the opposite.
The illusion of choice is really, I mean, especially with the love bombing, like a lot of people can't really connect the dots, and I wasn't really able to at the time, connect the dots between like when you finish something in Scientology, like a course or an auditing or whatever, that like high you have when you come out of the success office, and the examiner, when you've, you know, and everyone's cheering.
Euphoria?
The cheering. And I mean, but even on like if you're not educated on these things, like that feeling, like it lasts however long it lasts, and then it's gone. And like, it's not really enough for most people to spend several thousands of dollars for that again. And for those who it is, they'll do it all the way through, have like, you know, they'll do their clear package, and then they'll just be bang, 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 finishing all these courses. Yay, hurrah, hurrah. Oh, she's gotten to OT2. Oh, yes, great. And then you're done, and that just stops happening.
Yeah, because they're chasing, it's like a drug. They get that initial hypnotic euphoria, and they chase that sometimes through their entire Scientology career, hoping to get that permanently. And they never do.
And when it goes down, and when they aren't doing services like this, well, they're just running into some PT issues, some present time problems. And it's probably because of the PTSdness that I just can't magically do everything perfectly now that I'm on the OT levels. My mother is a perfect example of this, because like the further up she got on the bridge, I just feel like the more entitled she got, the angrier she got. Like, I don't even think she recognized it, unless she was like one moment I could remember after a couple glasses of wine, she was like really visibly struggling with these thoughts that like maybe she was a bad mom. And my sister came in and she was like, I mean, I was so desensitized to this whole, I realized like way after I left that I was in survival mode for a lot of my late teens, early 20s. But my sister was like making all this effort to like tell her things. And it was just like coddling each other to make like neither was sort of at fault or the solution. It's hard to describe. I just found it very like bizarre to watch, because from then on, the next day she obviously had no qualms about her as a mother and her in Scientology. Like, these aren't things that they're able to stake their identity on. Like she'll say everything like it's the most important thing in the world, but when it comes to stand on her beliefs, she's completely unwilling to provide any proof, any exercised external evidence of any of her like guarantee. It's all just, for her, is just like a mental cycle. Maybe I didn't describe that in a way I meant to, but it's sort of, it's just a bizarre thing to witness.
Yeah, for
well,
sure.
Scientology is like that, though. I mean, all the basically the wins are not really objective type wins. They're basic. The needle is floating. You're feeling maybe some that euphoria, the feel good, and you think your space is expanded, and they're all the wins are the same. My space is expanded, and I feel more a certainty or something like that. And they're all like that. So, but there's no objective, observable benefits. There's no like, if they say they're making the able more able, but you don't see any more ability coming out of it.
And I have a huge like, in the present, I have a bigger problem with that concept than I used to, making the able more able. Like, it's such a funny thing. It's like, well, we make the invisible more invisible. Or we make the it's like we make the fish better able to breathe underwater. Like, it's sort of this redundant thing by saying, if we make someone crazy, that wasn't our fault. If there are crazy people around us, we actually have nothing to do with them. And actually, you're crazy because we only help the able.
Right.
Like, what metric do they use?
Exactly.
To define,
completely. I know. It's so creepy, actually, when you think about it in perspective. And of course, that is a direct Hubbard quote. We make the able more able. So anyway, it's it's so wrong on so many levels, like just to think, and it creates this elitism of like,
ableism,
better than thou, like all of that nonsense. Yeah.
I've seen people be like unable to do certain services because they were like physically disabled. And then I was like, oh, so it's, certain things you need to be ambulatory.
Yes.
Per the reference or whatever. And it's like, if you're in a wheelchair, well, you better do some Scientology to magically cure you of being in a wheelchair. But we don't actually treat the sick. We only treat the able, and we make them, you know what I mean? So it's like,
because the sick or the person in the wheelchair, Scientology considers that's their fault because they're a quote unquote degraded being. And so they're not even up to the point of being ready to be a Scientologist and do all the levels and all that. It's
oh my God,
so crazy.
Yeah. And Claire, wasn't there a thing in the Sea Org where if there were Sea Org personnel on mission going to a different organization to handle it, that if they were going to get on a plane and there was somebody disabled boarding the same plane, that they were within their right to not board the plane because they think that that person is somehow going to pull in some harmful thing?
Very, very possibly. I didn't personally hear of that one, but I wouldn't put it past them. Certainly, for sure.
In extremism, the extremism of belief can, like, I can see that as a mentality from someone. I mean, I spent my life around these people, and like, I've never met a Scientologist who didn't have some weird thing going on in the background, or not even as like a part of them, but like as a consequence even of trying to use Scientology and watching it fail over and over and over and over again. They push you and push you, push you. Yeah. These behaviors kind of just explode out.
Yeah.
And
if
and those kinds of mentalities
yeah, they'll always say the next level will handle that.
Right.
Oh, that didn't handle it. Oh, the next level will handle that for sure.
Yeah.
Well, $20,000.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Right. So from your perspective, Ian, what do you most want people to understand about Scientology's abusive practices?
That it is mostly, I guess, from my perspective, is I have a problem with the intentional nature of how confusing it's made. Scientology is not, you don't have to understand everything about Scientology to learn about coercive control or high control groups. And some people are like, well, anyone can just believe what they want to believe. But knowing like who L. Ron Hubbard was, what he wrote, what I've visibly seen, policies that I've seen, attitudes of people that I've personally seen who had great power in Scientology. From my perspective, the biggest thing people don't understand is Scientology wants to be in charge, not just of the mental health system, not just of the legal system. They want to be in charge. There are policies that directly, and you're like, oh, well, that's crazy. They're never going to do that. A few people, I mean, things are happening in this, even just in this country, that no one would have believed were even like in the realm of possibility 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I think Scientology has such a access to, you know, positions of power because they're very wealthy Scientologists. There are Scientologists that meet together and discuss these sort of esoteric, like, we're on a prison planet and we are the only ones who can change it, and as long as we have control, we don't have to care about anyone's criticism. So there's like a subculture in Scientology of people who become entitled enough to claim that they are the solution. And because of Scientology, and this is a lot of ego boosting of these very wealthy people so that they'll donate more. What actually happens is you have a lot of dumb people, not all members, but a handful, especially I'm referring to the more wealthy ones. You have a bunch of dumb people with a lot of money letting David Miscavige do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
And David Miscavige himself, not a very educated person. Honestly, if he were actually smart, he would see how much easier it would be to control Scientology if he wasn't attacking all of the members at any given time. I don't think this is physically possible for him to disconnect in his brain. I think that's a malignant sort of illness there, but
yep.
It's in the nature of the thing. You're saying, why can't Scientology just like leave people alone? Like, what, you know, I always hear such random things. It's like, no, it's within their nature to believe that they have authority over you, or they should have authority over you, or that they should be considered better than you, not because they are, but just because in their mind, that high that they experience, that they hold on to after doing courses or auditing or whatever, it's just like a disassociative, like, you know, like, I'm better. You know, it's kind of, and
that's so common in Scientology that they know the answers to the universe. Nobody else does.
Yeah. And the most ethical beings on the planet and all that.
Yeah. And because this is one of trillions of lifetimes, you can kind of, as a Scientologist, say, well, I mean, what's a couple people losing money today when Scientology, the most ethical group, will gain power for the future? Like, yeah, it's like, oh yeah, we'll eat a lawsuit, that's fine. But Scientology made headway. You know, these little pieces that, you know, people say it's just like any other religion. Other religions actually are somewhat satisfied in their story.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think Scientology has that. I don't think Scientology has a lore that they're willing to actually stand by. That's why, you know, Scientology has all these like precepts and you know, the parts of man and way to happiness and all these things that they supposedly believe, but are willing to make absolutely no like declarations.
And part of that is there's so much conflicting stuff that came from Hubbard. You know, with something on happiness, and then there's always something sort of opposite almost, and it's almost like Scientology has taken all the negative parts, although there are more negative parts out of the whole thing, even just the stuff on control. Like, you know, you were talking about being ambulatory, being able to walk, the whole drill of look at that wall, walk over to that wall, and then they have there's a term in Scientology called 8C, which means control, and they will physically take the person over. So it can be, the control can be any kind of control. It's like whatever it takes to control the individual, but it's hard for them to state something.
The end phenomena, though, is to control, is to move them to the position.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like the end result for them is more important than any damage done.
And the other side of that, and the other side of that is that not just for the person who's doing the control, but for the person who's being controlled to be willing to be controlled. Right. And that's the other part of the drill, is to get that person to be willing to be controlled. and that's part of the conditioning right there.
Yeah. Removal of any agency or capacity to not do that if you don't want to. Like, you know, no boundaries, no nothing. You're expected to be able to be controlled, whatever that looks like.
And that conditioning is just on and on and on the whole time. But so, Ian, like at this point, what would you say to someone still inside Scientology who kind of feels afraid to reach out for help?
Well, it's actually funny. Just before I answer that question, you just said something that reminded me of this, and a huge problem with Scientology, and one of the reasons people get stuck in, I believe, is like a submission of self. But even by L. Ron Hubbard's own words, like he'll say it in a clever way. He'll say, well, if you can put yourself at cause over submission, if you can submit at will, later on you won't be able to be, you know, to submit to people who want you to submit to. You'll be able to recognize it, but it's like, but the activity is you actively submitting to Scientology over and over, and then that creates like an even deeper dependency. What would I say to people who are afraid to speak out,
or to
to reach out for help? Like,
who are afraid to reach out for help.
Reach out
for help to get out, or
really the hardest part is reaching out. Like it's going to be so, and this is something I felt and something I've seen other people feel, the relief you get when you realize that the leap was like worth it. Like you disconnect yourself from this system of, like, you feel afraid right now if you're thinking about it.
Yep.
If you're in that position and you think about it, like if I put myself back there, I'm terrified to say anything because I know that this weight, but that fear is going to hold you prisoner forever. And it's not just going to keep you stationary. You are going to decline over time. And like I said, like I was pushed into a corner. I'm not one to just kind of to sit in between 2 points of pressure. I personally am just compelled, you know, to just pick a direction or choose to not be a part of that situation. And you have, as a human being, power of choice. And if anyone tells you that there is only one system, I'm sorry, but that's a little too convenient for that system.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't, the onus is not on you to prove that being in Scientology is better. The onus on you is to live your life and make decisions that you find to be right or wrong. And learning other if people are getting mad at you because you're learning more about the world and not spending endless hours in Scientology, I don't know. I just think that's like, if you're just expecting L. Ron Hubbard's words to live your life for you and you live vicariously through his words forever, well, that sounds pretty boring.
Right.
And, you know, very unhelpful. Like, you learn something about yourself by living life. So from my perspective, that fear that you feel is not you. It is this Scientologist. It's like this Scientology. It's the policies you've read. It's the people who've threatened you. It's the understanding that you now become a threat to someone else.
Yeah, that fear is a really good point you make, because I've seen that where people are also afraid that if they reach out, are they going to be caught reaching out? Like when I first ordered an anti-Scientology book, I thought in my head, I was sure I was writing a note to the Office of Special Affairs and they were going to knock on my door. It was just that stupid paranoia. But it's just the conditioning.
Yeah,
but
I've actually heard that
right.
before. Somebody said, I'm not sure if somebody reached out to me on Instagram and they said, I'm not sure if this was your real account. I didn't want this to be like Scientology would create an account, like a fake account for me. So for me, and that was wild to me.
But I've seen that a
you know,
number
I
of
empathize.
times.
No, I believe it. Like the fact that like you could, I mean, it's reasonable in that perspective to have that kind of distrust. It's like, but like then have some self-observation of like, this is where Scientology has brought you, to not know who you can trust.
Yeah, exactly. Good
to not
point.
know what is right and what is wrong. Like the inner conflict has never been resolved by Scientology. And now you're stuck in this, like, should I stay or should I go? Like this isn't about making enemies or burning bridges or anything. It feels like that because the extremes have been made so hot and cold.
Right.
You're either in Scientology or you're an enemy of Scientology. But in reality, life is much more nuanced, much more complex. You find the strength within yourself to say, I don't want to tell another, I don't want to, I guess depends on what your post is, but like, I don't want to stay in this system anymore. All my family members, X, Y, and Z, whatever your reason is, like, that's not going to change by like doing nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like withholding yourself. Anyway, I feel like I've made that point, but like the reaching out part is honestly like really the hardest part, because then on the other end, there's be like, it's okay, we've been there. Go ahead, tell me I usually start with just tell me what's going on. I want to know, what's been going on, so I can it's like, okay, so I mean, that seems reasonable enough. And they're always like, oh, I really don't want to ask for a lot. Please just don't give me what I need to help me. And I feel bad even asking. And I'm like, I was there. And Claire will tell you, I was nervous about asking.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, and I said, like, I don't want to, I was playing all these things. I was so indecisive. And she was like, don't worry about it. What do you need? Tell me your situation. We worked it out and I got help that I needed. And that nervous anxiousness part about actually opening my mouth, that was gone.
Yeah.
Now I had the benefit of already sort of being declared. And I say that's a benefit because, they leave you alone.
Right. And they made the choice for you in terms of,
right.
Yeah, I know. I feel the exact same way. I've described it the same way. Like, I didn't make the choice to, I was declared the day after I escaped. So, my family they used all the leverage they had. It was over.
Yeah, we were under the radar. We were out in our heads in 2009, but we pretended we were still in for a few years. So when I was ordering some books that I wanted to read, Mark's book was, I think, one of the first books I ordered, and Amy's book I ordered. I was terrified just doing those orders because we were under the radar. We didn't want to be caught because we didn't want to lose the kids. But there was that fear for sure.
And it's that feeling like, and it's not just the fear of you, it's the fear on behalf of others. And for people who have more loved ones, like I made my peace. I mean, peace is relative for me because I believe anything can change at any time.
Same.
And that every day is a new opportunity for someone to make a choice. Every single day, no matter how bad you think you are, no matter how hard you think life is or has been, you can change it.
Yeah.
Your problems won't be solved in a day, but in Scientology, leaving is honestly one of the best things I've ever done for my life, and for others who have actually like done the work to realize this is wrong, which is thrust upon many of us. To independently reach out, I find to be extremely brave. And something I also would tell to anyone who's watching this is there is no one who is brave was not at one point scared. Being afraid is part of the process. Being afraid is part of the definition. And
you remind me of the famous, what is it? Bravery is feeling fear and doing it anyway.
Yeah. And that's really, and that honestly is something I hold on to because of how people are like, oh, you're so good at talking. You come on these streams for 4 hours. To be honest, I'm like shaking before a lot of those streams. I haven't done it in a while, but there's no point where I'm not nervous.
Agreed.
But the point I've come to, the point I've come to, with pushing myself has come from that detaching from that isolated, defeated, hopeless. It's gonna be nervous to talk to people you've never talked to, but on Earth, you haven't talked to most people. So even my brother, who had this whole I am a Scientologist episode on the Scientology TV network where he's talking about all these problems it helped him solve, and I said, even when I'm like, you really have nothing to compare it to. You were born and raised in this this group. You've lived in your mom's basement since after you were married with children. So when the more I guess intellectually rebellious, I was made to leave the house at like 16, 17. That was after, there were points before that where I was like homeless a few times because of how terrible it was to exist in that house. But
oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I did not know that.
Sleeping under bridges, gazebos. So
wow.
I'm just a miracle really that I was never like I'm very against like hard drugs, but there was a window where I was very like I was open season for anyone who wanted to come by and do some kind of like influential corruption, because my mom thought at the time my rebellion against her was this like I was fighting Scientology. It's like, no, you are just an angry, vitriolic person, and this is not how you have communication. Like she was just very bad at anyway, like literally fights like where she's like ripping things out of ripping my stereo onto the ground and like taking all the cables to my electronics, and I have to I have to leave out my window just to get out of the house because she's like trying to make me. So it's like I obviously, and I understand that my family upbringing was not so, some had it different than others, and so they're more connected to those familial.
Yeah. No, may I
Sure.
ask a question? Was the basis for that your non-cooperation with Scientology, or was it more fundamental than that?
For me, on my side?
With your mom, yes.
Well, my mom was a very angry person a lot, and she was very insecure. So like it was very, and she kind of just like, her and my sister didn't get along because I feel like there was a lot of envy there. But she was always pushing Scientology like it was going to fix me. And like verbally, she said that this was the intent of putting me in Scientology, was to fix me.
I see.
Because she saw me as some broken thing, because she didn't like who I was. And so I understood nothing about why she was doing what she was doing, or why she was I just thought she was an angry person. Later on, I sort of developed the concept that, and she expected us to be normal when both her and my father had normal childhoods outside of Scientology, but somehow their success can directly be attributed to Scientology. There was a lot of contradictions, but like I come to realize that like my mother's insecurity became sort of the weapon that Scientology used to inflict upon her this sort of zealous, like anything she felt insecure about, she could also like inflict onto others that she would feel vindicated, or it's like an ultimate projection of personal insecurity. And for me, all I knew is that my mom was irrational. I mean, I was sort of the straight man as a kid, like kind of just pointing out obvious contradictions of stupid things. At the time, I didn't understand that it was like everyone else was ignoring these very obvious things, and they didn't keep me in the loop. They just thought I'd buy it. Like carte blanche, and it's done nothing for me but make my family, more secretive and, more volatile. And my sister and my mom are just constantly screaming at each other. My dad is, I remember one time we had this library, small like TV room, but there were books in the wall. So we called it the library. I remember one day, I think I was like 13 or 14, and I'm having, I'm in there, I'm watching something, I'm eating like a plate of chicken wings or something. And I guess, this just set my dad or my mom off. And I'm just sitting there and I'm hearing them screaming back and forth. And my dad's like, Karen, you got to come in here and fix your son. You got to get your son some help. And so it really just detached me, because they saw me like, in their minds, because they're Thetans, they don't have to have a family. They just have these dead weights that they legally have to, take care of. And for them, it was a burden until my dad, became a YouTuber and started selling supplements and pretended he was a doctor. And, then he can kind of grift on that, make a lot of money and pretend like he's a great dad. Look at all this stuff I can provide. It's for the family though. I'm not going to help you, but if you stay in the family, you have access to all this money.
Yeah. To explain a little bit, just on that thing you were just covering about a family thinking of their kids as not, in Scientology, they believe in the whole reincarnation thing, and that you've basically just inhabited a body temporarily for that lifetime. So when they speak about children like their kids like that, or their parents, it's just, well, they happen to be my parents this lifetime, but they're just on their way through kind of thing. So it kind of creates that detachment, that emotional detachment a little bit.
Yeah, it's Scientology's insidious corruption of the family unit, the family bond, the family relationships, and all of that, because it's just temporary. Because you've had many bodies on the whole track, so this is not your son; it's just another being.
Exactly, and that's how they can, to a large degree, justify their whole policy of and practice. I always say practice instead of policy, because they'll deny they have a policy. I will say the practice of disconnection.
Right.
Sure.
They have a practice of disconnection, family disconnection. And that's one of the ways they justify it, is this, oh, it's just a Thetan passing through. So, you know, it's just one of your kids or your parent. You're going to disconnect from your parent. What the heck? You've had a trillion parents through your lifetimes or whatever. So, you know, it's sad, the whole thing on disconnection. But that's how one way they justify it.
Yeah, and I think the argument for disconnection would be stronger if simply questioning their questionable beliefs didn't also make people a target. Like, you know, if you're saying, well, why aren't you talking to your son anymore? You'd be like, oh, well, he's actually he said some very bigoted things about my very legally protected religion. And it's like, well, why did he say that? It's like, oh, well, you know, he like, if you just follow the question, like, enough information can go by where they will start to see you as a threat. And then they won't talk to you anymore because, well, you're going to ask questions about things that they already have to go into a dissociative state just to justify.
Yeah. So, and it's interesting that you say that, because at least in my experience, I like just pausing for a moment and going, oh, I wonder what my mother tells people as to why she's not speaking to her daughter. And the way I imagine that conversation goes is, oh, well, she was declared a suppressive person, right? It's this broad blanket label, and it's like gaslighting, like thought stopping, like,
exactly.
Oh, I'm not going to
shuts it down right there.
Yeah, never. Well, why? Says no Scientologist ever. Oh, why was she declared a suppressive person? Or a very small select few, in which case the answer would be, oh, she blew. And again, it's the thought stopping, crimes and end of conversation.
Not just blew, but criticized Scientology, attack. They don't say criticize, they'll say attacked.
Yes.
That's how my brother terms it. You know, he said, well, you attacked my beliefs.
Yes.
For starters, Scientology is not supposed to be a belief system. It's supposed to be a science of, provable. So when they say you're attacking my beliefs, it's not a belief system according to what Hubbard says.
Yeah.
So, and when you criticize, you're basically saying, well, this is not correct. And if it's not correct, it doesn't matter. You're still attacking according to them. So it's.
And Claire, that's you're right. And I think, Claire, you said something that really kind of reminded me that, like, exactly what you're talking about kind of shaped who I became in a way, because the way I feel about, like, conflict resolution now and solving problems, I believe that we have kind of accepted as the human race that there's sort of other, or I guess pessimistically, there are people who believe that, like, nothing can change, et cetera, these sort of blanket, nothing will take down, this cult or whatever, a reduction of ability based on assumption of historical evidence. However, in the same way, I like to be on the opposite end. I like to think, well, how could me as a human being, or me with the help of other human beings with brains, think past these issues? Now, I'm not solving global hunger or anything. Sadly, I'm just hanging out. Don't have billions of dollars to do that. But, like, on a smaller scale, like, you would think from the Scientologist perspective that they would at least have the ability to do something they've been promised is possible. It's like, especially with, like, the whole suppressive act, or the whole declaring someone a suppressive person, that shuts you off from your ability, not because you aren't able, but because they are something, like some known quantity that is bad. But as a Scientologist, aren't you supposed to be able to, like, kind of break through? What if you wanted to, I mean, I know the answer to this, but what if you wanted to say, no, I don't want to disconnect from my kid. I want to actually know what their problem is.
Yeah.
I want to know, like, I want to talk to them. I want to see, like, at what point did it go wrong? What part of my past am I willing to take responsibility for?
Mm-hmm.
You want me to answer that like a Scientologist?
No,
Okay.
well, no, that's why I said I know the answer to this. I know the other side. But it's like, from the Scientologist perspective, it's all about responsibility, accountability, personal responsibility.
Yeah, we'll pick them up later.
Yeah.
We're here to make the able more able.
Yeah, and it's like,
Yeah.
and they're but to me, so I see it as like a mental reduction.
Yeah.
If people
Yes.
are willing to accept declaration, especially like the more willing you are to disconnect from someone you think is suppressive, the lower I'd say acuity you have at life. I think it's like a mental literal bar. Like you're so willing to discard your value. Why are you even in Scientology?
Yeah.
If you're so frozen about living or doing or communicating or thinking or even taking, like, I've been wrong and I've said, yeah, I'm wrong about that. Actually, I learned this new thing where I said, like, I've gone to people who I've accidentally, popped off at. And I was like, you know what? It was an emotional time, but I'm sorry that it got to that point. We didn't see eye to eye, but I don't want you to think that I'm angry at you. I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
Small pieces of accountability that would have made what is, in my opinion, the least accountable system ever devised by man, it makes it seem, there's just that hypocrisy. It's like, you learn all this stuff to abandon it in practice.
Yes,
and
for sure.
and oh wait, but
right.
we have to actually pay for it again because we just found another policy in somebody's attic, and or we've decided that this once canceled policy wasn't supposed to be canceled, so now we're re-releasing everything and you have to go clear again.
Yep.
And for all the fancy things that they're aiming for, 90% of the wins that you hear in success stories by Scientologists are, my space is expanded and my postulates are sticking. And I found 5 parking spots today without even trying, because my postulates are, I decided
I avoided a traffic accident.
I did. And all the lights turned green on the way into work.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, coincidence is basically space magic.
Right.
If you're looking for signs that make Scientology valuable, you're like, the universe needs to tell me something that makes me not be wasting my time and energy. And you're like, oh, I sent a letter today on staff. I got more letters than usual, and suddenly I got this nice text from a friend, and so that to me is like, you're but it's elementary.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Do you mind if we do one more question before we wrap up, Ian?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. We like to try and keep these to an hour, just when we can. It's all good. Okay.
Yeah.
How can people best support the foundation's mission and individuals like yourself who are rebuilding their lives after Scientology?
Well, I would highly recommend that you visit the Aftermath Foundation's website and donate as little or as much as you feel is important. I think the more the merrier. I don't personally see, from my personal experience with receiving and also giving help to others who have left, honestly, it just makes it so much more simple for the person reaching out, that the foundation has the support that it needs, the resources that it has. And honestly, like I said, like, reaching out is the hardest part. If it's not about, well, for me, it's not really about what I believe, it's what I see.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I see, I can deduce, who's doing what they say they're doing in the most efficient and caring way possible. In my experience, when it comes to leaving Scientology, that's the Aftermath Foundation. And I think I've already helped a handful of people, and it's like, I want people that I help to help others. And so that they can feel that, so that they can be like, I've been there, I know you're scared, but, and, just to pass that sort of along. And it doesn't really matter how many or few people are in Scientology. It's about like being there to give people it's not about also taking people out of Scientology.
Right. Completely.
It is a cushion, because it is a fact that, from our experience, that people who are in Scientology and freshly leaving, especially the C organization, have nothing.
Yeah.
It has, Scientology takes and it takes and it takes, and you should feel good for it having robbed you of everything.
Yeah.
For having
it's like a cushion. It's also like a taxi sitting outside the front door that you just walk into.
Yeah. And it's not just, and you'd be amazed, because Scientology is a smaller world than you would imagine. So you're probably going to bump into people that you knew on this, coming out of your shell and being like, well, I don't believe in disconnection anymore. Let me look around. Oh, this person that I grew up with, I used to be good friends with, like I can reconnect with them. Or this other person who, was declared, and I felt so bad, these bonds, these people, you find that you find these connections happen that like literally bring people like true, like anything more, bring people joy in a way that is more real than anything in Scientology.
Completely. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's so support the Aftermath Foundation, subscribe, spread the videos as far as you can. Just like make it known that Scientology is a bigger problem than you might realize. And, people are being helped every day.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
it is because of these donations, and because of the people who are volunteering, giving their time to these people who are fragile, terrified.
Yeah.
They are not in a bad way, in a human way.
Right.
And there's a lot of shock. There's a lot of fear, but it is and from my experience, it's been just the fact that it's so that, Claire and Phil and Mike, when he was, that they've made it so easy to see, like, that you can trust, if that makes sense. Like the truth doesn't come from, oh, we're going to help you. Truth comes from being like, how can we help you?
Yes.
And then you do it. And then, so from my perspective, if you're nervous, if you're shaking in the knees, you don't have to reach out to me, but you can, and you can reach out to Claire. You can reach out to, I don't have the full list of people, but I have a public email.
We have an ever-growing team. And Ian, I
do.
just wanted to pause and say thank you for trusting us. Thank you for reaching out. I'm so grateful for your voice and for what you do. And I'm also grateful for your partnership in now helping us help other people too.
I mean, it's honestly, for the life that I have found and the person I've become, it is the least I can do, just for having the opportunity to see the other side and see how, how much better it is. I think it's just, and it's not even like a devoted full-time job. It's just like, we work together. We just we find somebody who needs help and we're like, oh yeah, Claire, let's
here's my hand.
Literally
this.
just,
You're welcome
just
to
reach
take
out.
it.
So and I'm pretty open. Like I'm even open to criticism. So you can reach out to me for help. You can reach out to me to tell me why I'm wrong and why, I'm okay with either of that. I'm
same.
I'll have that conversation, because I can have the conversation. I actually can communicate to anyone, anywhere, on any topic.
Bravo.
Believe it or not.
I believe it. Probably because you got out of Scientology, right?
Literally.
Awesome. Amazing. Well, thank you, Ian. As always, your insights, comments, and story are just amazing and inspiring. So we appreciate your time and we appreciate everything that you do.
Any day.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Thank you, Ian. I always find conversations with you just enlightening, because it sort of makes me kind of look at things as well. So
Sure.
I thank you so much for
Anytime.
your help along the way, and for these little interviews are really,
Thank you.
really beneficial.
Yes,
Yeah,
and thank you
absolutely.
to everyone who joined us in chat. We appreciate it, and we will see you soon.
Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Please help us to get to 10,000 subscribers.
And don't forget to push the notification bell to be alerted when new content is available.
For more information about how you can apply for help
or to become a volunteer,
visit us at theaftermathfoundation.org.
Thank you for watching.